as we're about to go to green. The 51st Rolex 24 at Daytona about to get underway. The Audi R8 pace car leads the Daytona prototypes to the line. He will dive for pit lane, and we will be racing shortly at Daytona International Speedway.
Going green, no passing till start finish.
Whoa! You hear him say no
Green,
passing
green,
till start finish, but they have split already, and that's something they're not supposed to do. 3 wide in the tri-oval to turn 1.
Big jump by Scott Pruitt, our pole sitter there. Scott Dixon gets swamped a little bit. The 0-2 is down to the 4th position, followed by Richard Westbrook in the Spirit Daytona car, and here comes the GT start.
Beautiful side-by-side start for the GT competitors, much different than that of the Daytona prototypes. And a good start as the GT field streams down to turn 1.
Scott Dixon just didn't get up to speed, and it really jammed everybody up there. Either there, he got caught out by Scott Pruitt, who nailed that start.
Pruitt wanting to show that he still has it at 52 years old. But right behind him, Dane Cameron. What a start for Team Salient. The very first time they have run a Rolex Daytona prototype, and they are putting on a show. Cameron qualifies 3rd and is up to 2nd in the early going.
Whoa, you saw Dane Cameron there almost drop the right side off that little curve area as you set up for that area coming back onto the banking. The car was twitching a little bit. He's pushing hard in the early going. The Shank cars are up there in the mix immediately.
You got to watch dropping wheels here. This is Florida, and it's full of sand, and you get that sand up on the racetrack, and it gets to be really a skating rink by tonight.
Michael Valiente there in 3rd. He was the leading car of the non-BMW powered cars in qualifying, lining up in the 4th spot. He wants them to make an impression here today. Things are settling down. Meanwhile, Dane Cameron starting to close that gap on Scott Pruitt.
Cameron in the red and black Team Salient BMW Riley, a car almost identical to the 01 out in front, the same power plant, the same chassis. Dane Cameron really showing what he's made of here in the 51st Rolex 24 at Daytona.
I think what you've seen already, that 01 looks like has trimmed out a little bit more. He stretched it a little bit on Dane Cameron there, Dorsey, as he came around the banking, maybe running a bit less downforce.
That's a very good possibility, Calvin. But also remember that Salient's team is quite an accomplishment. They came out of GT. There really hasn't much time to test here, so I mean, this is their first go at it.
Yeah, as Dane said, many of these teams have more years of experience than we have days, so it's high learning curve, but what a performance already. Qualifying up there in the top 3 and running 2nd in the opening hour.
That's a good story, no doubt about that.
Pushing hard early, and you've got to wonder at one point in time, do you say, all right, let things settle down and let's start to get to our pace. You see the 0-2 has dropped back at the start. Scott Dixon back to 4th. Chris Neville.
Well, Brian, earlier you said it's a beautiful day, high 70s, track temp right around 95 degrees. Those are some hot temps that these teams haven't seen this entire month of January. Talking to some of these teams, they said expect the cars to be a little bit looser here in the early afternoon. They're going to have to watch tire degradations. Most of these prototype teams have between 25 and 28 sets of tires left too. Also, listening to Scott Dixon on the radio after that start, he just said he missed his shift, got up in the rev limiter and missed his shift as they were coming up to speed there. Matt?
And Chris, Michael Valiente in the 6th, currently running in the 3rd position. Yesterday during practice, they got very little track time due to a mechanical issue with the clutch. They changed it. There was a lot of concern within the garage. Grand Am officials allowed them to go back out near the end of the day just to run a couple hardship laps to make sure that they had fixed their issue. All good on this 6 machine. They're pretty confident about their next 23 and 3/4 hours.
You know, on that start, all those guys side by side like that, missing a shift is something you don't normally do. He might have just run up on the rev limiter and not been cognizant of the fact that the thing was banging on the rev limiter and just took that little 1/4 of a second time to get it in the 2nd or 3rd gear. I mean,
one of the world's great endurance events, 24 hours around the World Center of Racing. More from the 51st running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona.